good idea.
Hello, Miss Lady.
Just don't laugh while I'm talking, because you'll ruin it. Ron's like, so how'd you get started? And Paul's like, what the heck is going on here? Like, shut up.
He said started.
He said gala.
So what do you guys call yourselves?
The band name is Theotokos.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Italian Fest. I'm not sure what year it is, so there's that.
in the band?
My name's John Welch. I am the rhythm guitar player and the main singer for the band.
Position in the band?
Nick Welch, and I'm the lead guitarist and also sing sometimes.
My name is Paul, and I am the drummer.
My name is Nick Welch, and I am the bass player primarily in this iteration of the band, and I am the father of the rest of the bandmates.
So what do you guys call yourselves?
The band name is Theotokos.
What's that mean? Where'd you come up with it?
So it's a Greek title for the Mother of God, so we're all Catholic. And my brother Nick and I actually started this band when I was in high school. He was in seminary with a couple of buddies of his, and so we started the band and we named it after Mary, the Mother of God.
So I'm a little confused. You guys all went to seminary, but none of you are priests.
Only I went to seminary.
Oh, okay.
John didn't go.
Okay.
But yeah, I went to seminary and then I discerned out, which is part of the purpose of going to the seminary, is to determine whether you're supposed to be a priest or not.
Okay. I used to be Catholic, and I always confused.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people, they'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry you left the seminary or left the priesthood. That's the whole purpose of going to the seminary, is to determine whether that's what you want to do or that's what you're supposed to do. And so discerning out isn't a bad thing. That means that the seminary did its job.
What's your favorite song that you perform?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, that's a really tough one.
You like them all.
Probably my favorite song to perform is Jet Airliner by the Steve Miller Band. I don't know what it is about it, but I just love singing that song. It's a great song, it's a great melody.
Favorite song to perform? We play Voodoo Child. I like that one. And some of John's originals are a lot of fun to play too.
You guys have original music?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's several.
What's your favorite part about performing?
Like it's very exciting for sure. Like you have to get an adrenaline rush. I would say that like our whole band plays better live than we do in rehearse for sure. It's a lot of fun and getting people engaged and stuff. You know, like when you get everybody in the crowd like into it, dancing, singing along and stuff. Like it's a lot of fun. It's just the energy around it.
I love playing live. It's stressful because we do everything ourselves, so we don't have any road crew. Getting the gig set up is it's a little stressful. It can be exhausting, but getting up and playing live is really wonderful, and it's really fun to play at the Italian Fest. Since they upscaled it and had to bring in, we play on really professional staging. With professional PA and lights, and it's really nice to be able to just walk onto that, have the sound guy plug you in and then have that kind of a professional setup, because usually you're not doing that. You're stringing gear across the floor at a bar or a hall or somewhere, and you're doing the best you can with it, but it's great when it's all done professionally for you. It makes it seem kind of big, bigger than live.
What is your favorite thing about performing?
My favorite thing about performing, I enjoy kind of like expressing, it's not really feelings, but it's a way of expressing myself through the music. And so that's why I like to play the lead guitar, because I get to make it up pretty much. There are very few songs that actually are where I have worked out the solo and I play it the same way every time. Most of the time I make it up on the fly each time. And so the challenge of that and preparing for being able to make it up as I go, and then just kind of like feeling what's going on in the rest of the song, or what's going on in the show, and putting that into the solo, that's what I enjoy.
Most memorable performance, that's another tough one. Let me think about that for a sec. Yeah, probably my most memorable one is when we first started playing the Italian Fest. It was a lot less formal than it is now, and the people who ran it weren't as sophisticated with getting bands set up and things like that. And so there was one show we did where we were the headliners for the night. So it was the Saturday night show, which is the biggest one at the Italian Fest, and we were there we played from probably 7:30 or 8 till like 11 o'clock. And by the end of it, we had a group of probably 100, 150 people just clustered around. It was very dark. There were just like some tent lights up, and people were singing along. It was really a good time. It was probably the most engaged with a crowd we'd ever got, and it was just really cool. It was just a neat atmosphere. It was cool to do.
Memory of performing.
Well, I remember the evening that John told you about, and that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool evening. But I guess I'm always looking to the next show. So I think not playing is going to be hardest on me, because I spent so many years not playing while I was raising a family, So, but it's becoming incredibly difficult to rehearse. I've got 10 grandchildren. The boys have 3 between them, And you know, we've all got careers, and the rehearsal just is becoming really a bear. There just isn't time for it. So what I'm hoping to do after the show is that we're going to bring everything back here and set it up just like it is and just leave it. And then from then on out, we'll just play whenever we feel like it, just for the sheer joy of it.
What's your favorite memory of playing with these guys?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Anybody ever get panties or bras thrown at them once?
No, but I have
Hotel
had...
room keys?
No, but I've had at least 2 different occasions that I have had friends of mine tell me that my father was a silver-haired fox. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna look like him one day, just not as tall. But I would say thankfully, nothing like that's flown up on stage at any point. But there was one show, probably the last show we played like about 2 years ago, where I don't know what was going on, but we were just on. Like, it was just one of those shows where we were just on point. And normally you're nervous for shows, but for some reason that show, like, everybody was super loose and just having the time of their lives. Everyone was laughing. I think anytime we made a mistake, just like, if you're able to laugh it off, it just makes things so much easier, and you play better. And for some reason that show, we were able to do that better than any of the other ones. And it was a blast. Like, I'll remember that show for the rest of my life. It was a lot of fun.
There was one time we were playing at this little bar, and John was young. He was like, I don't know, still in high school for sure. And he was playing a song where he was doing the primary part of the guitar, and he dropped his pick right at a point where there was kind of like a little pause. And he somehow, because he was also singing at the same time, and he was able to like sing his part, bend down, pick up the pick, and then start playing again with like 0 interruption. And everybody who saw it like freaked out, and they thought it was all kinds of fun.
So what brought you into the band? Obviously, your sons.
Well,
Did they get their musical from you, or?
yeah, my whole side of the family is musicians. My mother was a classical pianist. Her brother, my Uncle Freddie, was one of the greatest trumpet players in the world. He actually died on tour with the Guy Lombardo Orchestra in Paris. Her other 2 brothers were both musicians. Both grandparents on my mother's side of the family were violinists. So it just goes back a long way. My sister plays the violin, and I got into the band because when they started playing, I ran sound for them. I've got all this PA gear that I originally bought for my daughter Elizabeth, their sister, who is a brilliant musician. And so I started running sound for them, and they had a different drummer. And so after a year, I think they played together for about a year, and that drummer kind of moved on. And so I used to play drums when I was younger, so I filled in and stepped in and was the drummer for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years? And maybe 2 or 3 years. And then when Paul was, maybe not that long, when Paul was about 16, we brought him in and put him on the drums. And then first I moved to guitar, and then eventually we decided that it worked better for me to play bass, and John and Nick handled the guitar work.
So did you teach the boys how to play?
I did. They all took off. All I really did was show them basic things to get them started, and I let them borrow my gear. So I let one of these guitars over here, I used to just leave out so Nick could play. And the same for John, and he used to play my bass. I got John playing bass and got him started on Paul McCartney. So he quickly mastered Paul McCartney, and I said, okay, if you can handle Paul McCartney, then you need to try Geddy Lee. So I gave him some Rush, and he came back after 2 or 3 days and said, this is impossible, I can't play this. And I said, if you can play Paul McCartney, you can play Geddy Lee. And I made him go back and work on it, and 2 or 3 more days, maybe a week later, and he was playing Rush stuff. So I knew he had some incredible talent at that point. He was probably, I don't know, he might have been 14 then. And we've always had a studio. I've had a recording studio for 30 years in one form or another in the house. So I always let the kids have access to it. John spent tons of time recording stuff when he was really young. And that kind of, I think, even groomed him into his current profession. Yeah.
Remember your worst performance?
Worst performance? We haven't really had any where we totally bombed. There was a couple of Italian Fest shows where like one of the songs that I wrote, I like completely forgot the words. and then because I forgot the words, I got flustered and I forgot to play parts that I was supposed to play. And but that was, I think the rest of the show we were able to kind of pull it out after that. So, but that was a rough one.
Well, we need a drummer in 10 days. So I learned to play the drums in 10 days.
You should probably market that. Costing a lot of money.
It wasn't amazing. I got by. I played the show, but everything was as simple as it possibly could have, for sure. To compensate.
Commercial now. Learn the drums in 10 days.
Well, people just wouldn't believe me. But yeah.
Okay. So I guess it's time to start training the grandkids, right?
Yes, actually I've thought of that. There's a couple of them that seem to have some musical talent. They're kind of young, but that's when it's good to get them started. That's exactly right. It's time for another generation.
So, you have children? Yes.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
Any of them showing interest in music?
Yeah, they're both very musical. They seem to at this point. They have gravitated toward percussion, but they're 2 and 5, so kind of makes sense. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, we plan to get my oldest son a drum kit at some point soon, just to let him play around with it and see if he likes it. Just like a little electronic one that he can put headphones on. Doesn't make too much noise.
All right. Shout out to anybody's been any influences or
Let me think here.
people who've been big supporters.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some folks who've been instrumental. You know, back whenever Nick and I first started the band back at a seminary, you know, one of the priests there, Father Pat Beidelman, was just really cool about letting us was the boiler room in the seminary. So it was a big, it's basically an old castle, not exaggerating, it's in downtown Indianapolis, but there's a big boiler room, and that's where we would rehearse. And he was just he was the vice rector of the seminary, and he was just super cool. He thought it was really neat that we were doing it, and he'd stop by sometimes and say hi, and it was just a neat environment, and it was just cool that people were okay with us, you know, making a ton of noise a couple times a month, probably more like once a week for, you know, quite a while when we first started out there. So there's that, you know, we played a show down in Meinrad at what's called the Unstable. St. Meinrad is the major seminary for the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. Our Catholicness is showing a little bit here, right? But the rector of that seminary, Father Dennis, invited us down to play at the Unstable, which is their bar on campus there, and that was a really, really good time as well. But yeah, I mean, I think probably the most amazing part of this is that I've gotten to spend the last, 10, 12 years just building a relationship with my family, doing something we all love together. I think that part of the experience is something I'm never going to forget, and I'm super excited about like doing these videos and this little documentary, because I'm going to want to remember this stuff and be able to show it to my kids. And so I'm never going to forget this, and it's going to be a huge part of just myself moving forward. And so that's definitely been an amazing thing.
Shout out to anybody or?
Yeah, we should give shout outs. We should give shout outs to our wives and all of our family members who have put up with all of the work that we have to do. So my wonderful wife, Ann, has put up with, a lot of disruption for us to do this over the years. and a lot of watching of the grandkids, and Rose and Stevie, my youngest two children, and the boys' siblings, watch their young children now frequently, so that we can rehearse and play. So we've had a huge amount of support. And Elizabeth, she's been our vocal coach all along. So anyway, yeah, it's really the family. We've got a lot to thank for.
Anybody you want to give a shout out to? Anybody's been instrumental in your development or development of this?
My dad has been the inspiration. When I was little, he would talk about going to the Slippery Noodle, which is a bar in Indianapolis, and playing with his friend Jimmy Bryant. And I always just thought that sounded like a lot of fun, and so I wanted to be able to go play with him someday, even when I was, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 years old. And so when I learned to play, I played a lot of blues stuff. So the Slippery Noodle is a blues bar. And then when I turned 21, we went and played there, and it was pretty cool to get to go play with my dad. And our names are both Nick, and so when they called us up on stage, they called us Nick and Nick, and then for several years after that, everybody knew us as Nick and Nick, and so we'd show up and we just put Nick and Nick on the little sign-in sheet, and everybody knew who that was. And then also my oldest sister, Elizabeth, she's a highly accomplished musician, and she has a real high standard of technical expertise and perfection, and so she always kind of pushed me to really nail down the things that I was a little bit sloppy on, and I think that was it really helped. It was one of those things where anytime you get criticized or pushed beyond where you're at, sometimes it's annoying in the moment, or it feels, not so good. But then if she hadn't done that and I hadn't then worked on that, I wouldn't be as good as I am today, however good that is. But she's definitely helped me push myself to a higher level of playing.
Anybody's been instrumental in all of this?
Steven, my brother Steven, has been like a roadie for us, carrying stuff our every show for a while. When he was like 14, he's a big, strong boy. When he was like 14, he was just picking up massive speakers, PA equipment, and just walking around with it. There were tons of shows that if we didn't have him helping us, we would have been either late or just, it would have been a disaster without him. Definitely boots on the ground, helping us get ready. So really appreciate all Steven's efforts for sure over the years, because he's been there for every show.